Welcome, in front of me is a POCO X3 GT, and today I will show you a couple tweaks and tricks you can do on this device. So to get started, we're going to open up our settings, and we're going to navigate to the display section right over here. And I'm going to begin with the dark and light mode, which you can swap between in here. So obviously you have the light and dark swap right here, but you also have the schedule dark mode option. When enabled, it will give you two options, either sunset to sunrise or custom, and you can select a specific time that it will switch between these two modes, which is a pretty nice thing to have, especially now during the summer. So obviously it gets bright outside, so this will allow you to have it in light mode during the daytime, which will be a little bit easier to see, while during the nighttime it will automatically switch to dark mode, which is a pretty nice option to have. Now moving on to the next thing, it's going to be the color scheme, which is right over here. And this allows you to change just how vibrant the display looks. Now personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the saturated colors of most of the displays that come on the devices. They do have its use in terms of just kind of standing out of the crowd in like a store where you have a line of phones. But generally, I just find them to be a little bit too saturated to the obnoxious level. So I prefer to change it to something more reasonable, like the standard color scheme. It makes the display look a little bit more yellowish in terms of like the white colors, but it's just what I personally prefer, and maybe you do too. Now additionally, you also have the color wheel right here, so you can also choose a little bit more color variants, I guess, like the default, which is the normal one, warm, cold, or custom, which will allow you to not customize anything apparently. That's a weird one. Usually you would have like the red, green, blue sliders, but I guess you don't have it here. But you can... there we go. So it adds this, so you can slide it around. Now when I'm doing this at the very edges, you can see the difference in like the colors. Obviously that's just extreme. I would probably recommend keeping something a little bit more reasonable. Oh yeah, there we go. Now moving on to the next option, it's going to be the screen refresh rate, which by default it's set to 60. Now this display supports 120, and I recommend utilizing it because it will make your display feel much smoother than it does with 60. Now the single downside of doing so will be that the device will now consume a little bit more battery whenever you're actually using the display. So this only affects the screen on time and nothing else. And also it doesn't look like there is any kind of alteration between the refresh rate, so it's either 120 or 60 and nothing between. While most other devices nowadays have an option that you can have the high refresh rate, but when you're not needing it because the content that you're viewing cannot support it or just isn't needed, it will automatically drop to a lower refresh rate. Here we don't have that. Would have been nice, so that's why I kind of want to mention it, that it will consume a little bit more of your battery life. So anyway, moving on to the next option, it's going to be the system navigation, which is located under the home screen. Right over here. And you can see it right up here. System nav. Now we have the typical buttons that you can choose from, or gestures. I'm gonna go with gestures without actually learning it. Sorry for that. Now additionally, you do also have the option right here to hide full screen indicator, which is this bar right here at the bottom. Now again, it asks me if I want to learn it. Nothing has changed, it just removes this bar from the bottom, giving you a little bit of a cleaner look to your device, which is something that I really like. Now moving on to the last option that I want to show, it's going to be the gestures, not navigation, just gestures in general, which is under the additional settings, so right here, and you have the gesture shortcuts. Now we have a couple different ones, like launch Google Assistant, so press and hold power button for half a second, take a screenshot with 3-finger swipe down, or portrait screenshot, whatever. You can go around those, just toggle them on or off, but there's also another one, one that I have seen just now, of basically a brand new shortcut that I've never experienced before, which is the double tap fingerprint sensor. Not press, but tap. So we can select it, and here we have a bunch of different options, which is always nice to see. So it is pretty extensive, as you can see. By the looks of it, it won't allow us to add a specific application, but it has a couple other ones, like for instance using your flashlight, control center, notification shade, Google Assistant, launch camera, calculator, silent mode, issue logs. So it has pretty nice options right here to choose from. I personally myself like the flashlight, so when you enable this, I'm gonna just kind of flip it over and you do this, it automatically turns on the flashlight. Now keep in mind, I'm not actually pressing the button, I'm just touching it. So it's just a touch related button, which is pretty nice, though maybe in the pocket it might cause some problems where it rubs around against your leg or something like that and it automatically turns on the shortcut. I have no idea. That is something that you will need to check out. So if you ever take out your phone out of your pocket and it for some reason has, for instance, flashlight on, then you might want to actually disable this, because obviously it won't be very useful. But it is not like super sensitive, so if you press half a button, as you can see, it won't really enable. So it needs to be basically the entire sensor. So you need to cover it almost with your full finger, otherwise it won't turn on, which should alleviate this kind of problem. Now anyway, with this being said, hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.